We'll fight together, he whispered against her cheek, breath ragged and fierce. Yet their moment was fleeting, a fragile promise cloaked in impending danger, echoing beneath the thunderous skies as they pulled apart, breathless but united. Together, she affirmed, heart racing both from their stolen kiss and the unforeseen alliance growing stronger with each beat of thunder. Their destiny could not be thwarted. Scene 11. Tangled webs. A muted hum of the gala vibrated through the sprawling mansion, a stark contrast to the velvet-lined isolation of the dimly lit hallway where Nova found herself. The distant clinking of glasses and faint laughter echoed as she leaned against the cool wall, her heart thundering inside her chest. In her hands she held an empty champagne glass, the frosty rim tracing her fingers. The air smelled faintly of sandalwood and lemon, enchanting yet laden with the weight of unspoken truths. Caden leaned against the opposite wall, arms crossed, his presence a mixture of comfort and intensity. The soft light cast shadows across his face, revealing the tension that had settled into the lines of his jaw. "You know, it's funny," he started, breaking the growing silence as he stared into the mahogany floor. "I thought I knew this place inside and out." Nova's gaze darted around, taking in the opulence of the decor, the ornate chandeliers that sparkled like stars, and the rich tapestries lining the walls, a testament to endless wealth. Yet here, in this isolated hallway, 1,000 secrets weighed heavier than gold. "What do you mean?" she asked softly, her voice barely rising above the whispers around them. Caden shifted, running a hand through his hair, the dim light catching a glint of something flickering behind his dark eyes. "I thought I was part of it all. Turns out I've only seen half of the picture." His voice was steady, but a thread of vulnerability slipped through. She dared to step closer, sensing the gravity in his words. "What do you really mean by that?" His eyes met hers, and for a moment they stood suspended in an unyielding silence, the unspoken connection thrumming like electricity in the air. Caden swallowed, a heaviness hanging between them. "There's so much I've kept hidden, even from those closest to me. It's safer that way, or so I thought. But keeping things hidden doesn't protect anyone." Nova took a deep breath, the weight of her own secrets crashing against her chest. Sometimes it just complicates everything more. The corner of his mouth turned up, but it didn't reach his eyes. Complicated seems to be what we do best. A soft laugh escaped her lips, but it was tinged with melancholy. "I suppose it does. Like me impersonating my sister at a gala for a criminal syndicate." "Your sister?" Caden echoed, but the thought lingered in the air like a smoky haze. "Does she even know?" "No." The word fell from her lips like a confession. "She doesn't know anything about this, about us. It's all too tangled." Caden stepped nearer, breaking the invisible line that divided them. The warmth of his body seemed to radiate against her skin. "What if we untangled it together? Or we could just create more knots." A playful smile danced on her face, but in truth, the vulnerability underneath the jest made her heart flutter with unexpected fear. He leaned in closer, eyes dark with an intent she couldn't decipher. "This isn't a game, Nova. Our lives are on the line." Her breath caught, the air heavy with implications. "So you admit there's more at stake than just us?" "Yes." His voice dropped to a whisper, and she could feel the heat of his breath against her cheek. "But that doesn't mean what we have isn't real. It doesn't mean I don't feel it." The world around her melted away as the silence stretched between them, thick and charged. She could see the flicker of his emotions, passion tangled with fear, hope woven in a trust he had yet to offer fully. "I want to know you, Caden, all of you. But the truth, it feels like a weight, like it could crumble everything we're just starting to build. But burying it won't do either of us any good." He edged closer, the tantalizing space between them pulsing with heat. "Just know, you're not alone in this." His words hung in the air, beautiful yet haunting. Time stilled as they stood on the precipice, two souls entwined in the chaos. "Then let's be honest, Caden. No more hiding, no more games." Her heartbeat echoed thunderously in her ears, every part of her alive with the fear and thrill of what lay ahead. "All right." He nodded slowly, determination flaming in his eyes. "Let's untangle this." As the laughter of the gala wove through the thick silence around them, Nova felt the urgency of their entwined fates, the cost of secrets and the promise of revelation pulling them closer than ever. Scene 12. Stolen moments. The heavy velvet curtains hung like shadows in the corner of the lavish ballroom, where even amidst the splendor, anxiety twinkled off the marble floors. Caden Onyx stood near the grand piano, his fingers absently tapping a tune that mirrored his restless thoughts. The gala hummed with the chatter of elite patrons, but for him, the air felt thick with unspoken words and uncertainties. Adjusting his cufflinks, he glanced around for Nova Leclaire. Not too far away, Caden murmured to himself, a blend of worry and longing infiltrating his heart as he scanned the crowd, seeking the one person with the power to disrupt the carefully maintained walls he had built. Suddenly, Nova appeared, hair cascading like a waterfall down her back. She wore a deep emerald gown that danced with the light, setting off radiant flecks in her soulful brown eyes. The sight of her ignited something deep within him, a cocktail of desire and gravitas that made his breath catch. "Nervous about your big moment?" she teased, her voice a melodic whisper against the clamor surrounding them. "Always," he replied, a smile creeping onto his lips against his better judgment. "Just trying to keep the wolves at bay." "Aren't we all?" she continued, leaning closer, a conspiratorial glint in her eyes. "But tell me, who's the real wolf in this story?" Before he could answer, a sudden commotion erupted across the room. The piercing laughter of Veronica Ilunga, the notorious gallery owner, bounced off the walls as she flaunted her latest acquisition, a diamond-encrusted bracelet that would make even the starlight envious. The distraction swept through the crowd, leaving tension and whispers in its wake. Caden took a deep breath. "Let's step away for a moment. I need to clear my head." Without waiting for a response, he led her towards a dimly lit alcove, impeccably decorated yet removed from the gala's vigorous energy. It was a refuge, carved out amidst the chaos. As they entered, Caden's heart drummed in time with the rhythm of the distant music, a wild but steady pulse. "Is this what you meant by a private moment?" Nova teased, her voice laced with mischief as she leaned against the polished wooden paneling. Caden chuckled, though his gaze remained fixed on her face. "It's quieter, which is good, considering my mind is racing. All this feels overwhelming. Especially with everything riding on tonight," she acknowledged, a flicker of sincerity shadowing her playful tone. The vulnerability in her eyes drew him in, nudging at the edges of his tightly knit defenses. They stood in silence for a heartbeat, a taut moment where the world faded away. Caden moved closer, sensing the electric pull between them, warmth radiating in the small space. "What if we made everything up as we went?" he said, the words tumbling out before he could weigh their impact. "Are you suggesting we throw caution to the wind?" she replied, her voice thick with intrigue as she tilted her head. "Because if you are, I might need a drink first." "Better make it two," he laughed, sustaining eye contact, both of them all too aware of the boundaries they kept between reality and their burgeoning connection. Suddenly, the weight of their unsaid thoughts crashed upon them. Caden reached out, brushing a lock of hair behind Nova's ear, the touch sending a shiver coursing through both of them. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, his heart in his throat, a battle raging within him. "Not here," she whispered fiercely, glancing towards the door. "Not while everyone's watching." "But they're not watching us, Nova," Caden pressed, emboldened. "They can't see the truth of who we are." He leaned in, their breaths mingling in the dim light, and for a moment, time unspooled, and you could almost feel the pulse of possibility echoing around them. Then, as if pulled by an unseen force, Caden pressed his lips against hers. It was electric, yet tender, an unguarded moment that spoke of all the stolen seconds they wished they could hold on to forever. Nova melted into him, a gentle exhalation of breath that ignited a tempest of emotions deep within. Her hands found their way to his shoulders, grounding them both against the whirlwind of the world waiting outside. "A kiss like that," she whispered against his lips, "could change everything." "Maybe it already has," he replied, the words sealing a moment brimming with unspoken promises and burgeoning hope. Scene 13, Family Secrets. The opulence of the ballroom encased Nova Leclaire in an electrifying whirlwind of color and sound, but it felt like a gilded cage. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the ivory table linens and gold-rimmed glasses, yet their shimmering beauty did little to ease the sudden knot tightening in her stomach. The laughter of the elite mingled with the orchestral strains of a string quartet, while past mistakes whispered shadows in her mind. She inhaled sharply, the scent of fresh-cut roses battling her tumultuous thoughts as she searched for the one face that could anchor her amidst this sea of extravagance. Caden Onyx stood across the room, locked in conversation with a cluster of well-dressed men. His confident posture fascinated her. He was both captivating and safe. Yet beneath the polished exterior lay an unearthed turmoil that sent a shiver down her spine. She should have approached him when she had the chance, but with each passing second, the resonating truth of what she had discovered about their family's connection pressed heavily on her. "Hiding from the world, are we?" a voice teased. It was Tessa, Nova's twin sister, mischievously smirking, her fingers grazing the shimmering fabric of her gown. "Or just hiding the truth?" "I'm not hiding anything," Nova retorted, her voice edged with defensiveness as her jaw clenched. "What are you doing here?" "Just making the rounds. I couldn't resist seeing your debut in the spotlight." "But I've heard whispers, Nova," she whispered conspiratorially, her bright eyes scanning the crowd. "You and Caden? Cute, but family secrets, they can burn." "I told you, it's not like that," Nova said fiercely, yet her heart betrayed her, fluttering at the mere thought of Caden's presence. "Besides, you know nothing about it." "Right, just your twin sister who has seen you trip over your own heart 100 times. What's changed now?" Tessa challenged, raising an eyebrow and crossing her arms. As Nova opened her mouth to respond, she spotted Caden moving toward them, the determined stride cutting through the throng with an effortless grace. Their connection crackled unmistakably, electric and charged, yet she felt like she stood on a precipice, terrified of the fall. The laughter around her faded, as if the world had become a silent film. "Caden," Nova called, her voice stronger than she felt, pulling the attention of the room like a moth to flame. The very air thickened with anticipation as he approached. His dark, intense gaze bore into hers, compelling her to reveal the secrets threatening to intertwine them irrevocably. "Nova, I was looking for you," Caden stated, a hint of urgency woven into his warm baritone, his body tense. The flicker of genuine interest ignited her spirit, yet it warred with the burden of her knowledge. She hesitated, her heart racing, and the words felt like lead in her throat. "There's something we need to discuss." "Later?" he implored, the faintest crack in his composure as he glanced toward Tessa. "We can talk now if you'd like." "Look at the two of you," Tessa interjected, her playful disposition faltering as she scrutinized Caden. "It's like a plot twist waiting to explode. Charming servant meets desiring lady, but beneath all the surface. What secrets lie buried?" Nova shot Tessa a disapproving glare, but was pulled further into Caden's magnetic pull, his concern laced with confusion. "Secrets? What secrets?" Caden asked, brows knitted, an air of vulnerability creeping into his posture. "Family secrets," Nova whispered, lowering her voice, but it echoed louder than the laughter resounding around them. "You and I, our families, they're connected in ways we never imagined." Caden took a half-step closer, the tension around them pulsing like a live wire. "I don't understand. What do you mean?" A flicker of laughter sparked near them, disrupting the moment as a couple stumbled by on the dance floor. Amid the twinkling lights, their raucous glee only underscored the gravity sitting between Caden and Nova. The world was swirling around them, yet in this instant, only they existed. "Not here," Nova murmured, desperately scratching at the surface of fear, her voice nearly trembling beneath the weight of unshed tears. "Please, we need to go somewhere else." His jaw tightened, wrestling with an invisible struggle. Then he nodded, a silent agreement forged in that single glance. As they moved through the dancing bodies, anticipation crackled and simmered, entwined with the tension of what lay ahead. The secrets were out there, and the uncovering would reveal truths raw and unfiltered. "Hold on tight, Nova," Caden said softly as he guided her through the throng. "We're about to find out just how deep those family ties run." Scene 14. Dangerous Liaisons. The rain fell in sheets against the cobblestone streets, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and the lingering smoke of distant fires. Nova LeClaire leaned against the cold stone wall of the alley, her heart racing, each beat hammering against the escalating tension enveloping the hidden gala's entrances. She peered around the corner, her breath catching at the sight before her. "But you understand," a voice slipped into the night, low and smooth as dark chocolate. It belonged to Marcus Sinclair, a man whose reputation for ruthlessness was whispered behind closed doors, yet his words seemed tinged with something almost persuasive. "If Caden finds out, it will all fall apart. The weight of that secret will crush him before we can even act." Gesturing with a quick flick of his wrist, he brought his companion, a tall woman with fiery red hair, into the shadows of the alcove. Her name was Serena, and Nova had heard rumors of her involvement in the syndicate. She was known for her cold efficiency, but tonight, under the rain-soaked sky, there was desperation in her eyes. "If we leverage this correctly," Serena replied, voice dipped in uncertainty, "we can control the narrative. Caden doesn't see the danger as clearly as we do." A chill crept up Nova's spine. She felt the cold moisture of the rain trickling down her back, a physical reminder of the urgency of the moment. She was hidden just within the shadows, but her mind raced with the implications of their conversation. Caden and his hidden son. Was that the secret they were discussing? She clutched the fabric of her dress, the silk cool against her skin, anchoring her to the present. "We're playing a dangerous game here," Marcus said, his eyes narrowing as he leaned closer to Serena. "If you're found out—" "Found out?" Serena interrupted, her voice rising just above a whisper as the tension between them crackled in the thick air. "You think I'm afraid of exposure? I've played this game long enough to know how it ends, Marcus. This could be our opportunity to shift the balance entirely." Nova's heart pounded harder. She could almost feel the rain soaking the stones beneath their feet as the words washed over her. What was Marcus planning? The stakes escalated beyond mere secrets. They were talking about power, and beneath that, something darker. "Power? You think you can control Caden, his past?" Marcus remarked with a scoff. "He's got loyalty, something you're missing in your reckless ambition." Ambition hung palpably in the air between them, almost tangible. Nova edged a little closer. She couldn't help but soak in the weight of their words. Lightning split the sky momentarily, illuminating the alley and casting an eerie light on their faces. "Just remember who you're dealing with," Marcus added, a final flare of arrogance in his tone. They moved to leave, and Nova stumbled back into the deeper shadows, her breath hitching as she tried to process what she had just overheard. Once they had disappeared, she pressed her back against the stone wall, feeling its unforgiving texture against her shoulder. Rain poured down, washing away any sense of calm she might have clung to. Caden's name echoed through her mind, a name bound to the darkness of the world they inhabited. Would her own secrets unravel the fragile threads holding them together? The sound of laughter erupted from the gala nearby, music mingling with lively chatter. The atmosphere felt discordant against the stormy backdrop, and Nova closed her eyes for a moment, finding sanctuary in a memory of Caden's embrace, a moment that felt a world away now. They had shared more than just stolen touches. They were intertwined in a tapestry of unspoken trust and buried fears. Longing stirred within her, entwined with the dread that shadowed her thoughts. She stepped back into the light, letting the rain wash over her as she mentally prepared for the confrontation that awaited Caden. Would he trust her enough with the truth? "I hope you're ready for what's coming, Caden," she whispered to the rain, as if he could hear her through the storm. The stakes were rising, and she could feel it. And within that shimmering uncertainty, a fierce determination ignited in her heart, fueled by every secret she now bore. Scene 15. A reckless decision. The room was a patchwork of candlelight and shadows, flickering against the high, exposed beams of the attic where Nova had taken refuge. The air was thick, yet palpable, tinging her senses with the scent of burnt wax, mingled with the faintest trace of vanilla lingering from last week's gathering. She leaned against a weathered beam, heart thundering in her chest, hypnotized by the golden light casting contrasts across the floorboards. Outside, the distant sound of laughter and clinking champagne glasses escaped through the windows, a reminder of the world still reveling below, yet they felt like echoes from another lifetime. Caden's entry disrupted the delicate cocoon of solitude she had woven around herself. He stepped inside, eyes narrowed, assessing her from beneath the brim of his cap, a cascade of curls falling free at the sides. The sight of him sent a shockwave through her. His taut silhouette was a force to be reckoned with, powerful yet controlled. There was something magnetic, almost charged in the air, as if unseen threads were pulling them closer yet keeping them apart. "Is this a secret hideout, or have you just lost your way in the party?" he said, the corners of his mouth lifting into a teasing smirk that rarely betrayed the tension curled within his steady gaze. "Maybe both," Nova replied, her voice steady despite her pulse, teasing him back with a flick of her hair. "Or maybe I just need a moment to think without being suffocated by perfection." The smirk faded slightly, replaced with seriousness. "What's there to think about? You always seem so sure." His tone held a blend of challenge and genuine curiosity. "I don't know if you're aware, but there are some secrets lurking in the corners here, Caden," she replied, stepping closer, the distance between them diminished. "And if you're going to let me in on the truth, maybe you could start with your own." "You've misread the atmosphere," he replied, a twinge of discomfort ghosting over his features. "This doesn't have to be discussed here." "Why not?" "'Cause it's safer to sweep it under the rug," Nova challenged, resolving in the moment to push him. She had felt the gulf between them grow with each hidden glance, every unspoken sentiment, the desire to bridge it, to unravel this psychological chess game they were embroiled in, thrummed painfully in her chest. Caden took a breath, tension rippling around them like waves against a shore. "It's not just about you and me. There are things at play." "Then let's play a new game," she interjected, resolute. The fiery resolve igniting her tone surprised even her. "What if I told you I know about the child?" Silence engulfed them, heavy and oppressive, the flickering candlelight catching in Caden's eyes. They locked gazes, Nova holding his uncertainty with fierce conviction. She stepped closer still, desperation mingling with hope as she continued. "I know you're keeping something from me, a piece of you that's been cloaked in shadows. You can't keep living like this, Caden." "You don't understand what you're asking," he said, voice barely more than a whisper, the walls seeming to shrink around them as the tension thickened. "Then help me understand," she nearly pleaded, but her voice remained steady. They were caught in the undertow of 1,000 emotions, all tumbling together chaotically: fear, longing, trust, and vulnerability, all crisscrossing viciously in the confined space. "And what if you wish you hadn't?" Caden echoed, his bravado fading to reveal the flicker of a man fighting the weight of his past. "What if you unravel something that cannot be put back together again?" "Then we'll face it together," Nova said defiantly, heart hammering in a rhythm that swelled between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. "Or you could keep letting it overshadow us." Outside, the laughter grew louder, the world thrumming with vitality, but here, nestled in the envelope of their silence, a different kind of tension blossomed, one that teetered on the edge of recklessness, drawing them ever closer to the precipice. Caden inhaled deeply, the weight of her words pressing on him like heat, a slow, warming sensation. "You really want to know, don't you?" he asked, voice dangerously low. "More than anything," she replied, and in that moment, the air thrummed with fulfillment and uncertainty, a profound dance of desires unspoken, pushing them both toward a reckoning they could no longer ignore. Scene 16: Silent communication. The noise of the gala swelled around them, lively laughter and clinking glasses, the music cascading through the air like a waterfall of sound. But in a small alcove just beyond the main hall, Caden Onyx and Nova LeClaire stood wrapped in a charged silence, the cacophony fading to mere background noise. A half-empty glass of champagne rested on the table beside them, forgotten, his jaw clenched as he studied her. "Why do you always assume the worst of me?" Caden's voice was low, edged with tension. He leaned slightly forward, the air thick between them. Nova crossed her arms tightly against her chest, her eyes fierce but betraying the flutter of uncertainty beneath. "It's not just you. It's trust, Caden. You keep things from me. Always." She turned her gaze to the swirling silver and gold decorations above, her expression unreadable. "What do you want me to say?" Caden pressed, stepping closer, the warmth of his body enveloping her. His heart thudded with an intensity that he tried to quell. "That I didn't bring you here under false pretenses? That I'm not a man trapped by my past?" The weight of their unspoken secrets hung in the air, palpable and suffocating. Nova finally met his gaze, her bright hazel eyes searching his, yet they reflected something deeper, an ache, a longing. "I want honesty," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "You keep painting yourself into this corner. I can't break down the walls if you won't let me in." Caden sighed, running a hand through his tightly coiled hair, the frustration evident in his posture. "You don't know the half of it, Nova. Then tell me." She stepped forward, her body brushing against his, igniting a warmth between them that was undeniable. "Please, tell me why you're hiding behind this facade." The tension shifted, sparks crackled where their bodies met. Caden met her challenge. "It's complicated." His voice softened. He raised a hand, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, an intimate gesture that sent a shiver through her. "I never wanted to put you in this position. I never wanted to drag my shadows into your light." A flicker of something vulnerable crossed Nova's face as her defiance began to waver. "But you did. You brought me here, to this gala, under false pretenses, and now you're here, saying you care but hiding so much." Her voice shook, revealing the tremors beneath her bravado. "How can I trust you when you keep your secrets so close?" Caden's heart raced. In this moment, all the walls he had built around his heart felt like they were crumbling, replaced by an urgency to be seen, to be known. "I'm afraid that if I open up, it will change everything." "Change is the only constant, Caden." She took another step toward him, her breath mingling with his, a warm perfume of risk and desire. The air thickened around them, alive with possibility. He swallowed hard, the taste of fear and longing colliding on his tongue. "Nova." Caden's voice dropped to a husky whisper. "You don't understand how deep my feelings for you run." His words hung between them, an invitation layered with caution. "I'm beginning to," she replied, her voice breathless. She tilted her head, uncertainty shimmering in her eyes. It was an uncharted territory they ventured into, the invisible map of their pasts and futures colliding in that narrow space. And in that moment, something inside Caden shifted. He stepped closer, enveloping her in his warmth, their bodies nearly touching, the musical laughter of the gala dimming into silence. "Caden," Nova began. But the words faded into the ether as he grazed his thumb along her jawline, tilting her chin up toward him. His heart raced, so loud in the quiet that it drowned out everything else. "Just feel this with me," he murmured, his voice a rough caress. Their gazes held, tension building into a storm, and he closed the distance, their lips meeting softly yet urgently, a hesitant exploration that ignited into a fiery connection. The kiss was an awakening, sent sparks racing through Nova passion, fear, hope, all wrapped into this moment. As they lost themselves in the electric taste of each other, the world around them faded, replaced only by the rhythm of their breaths and the tumult within their hearts. Slowly, as if pulled apart by an invisible string, they separated, but the unspoken promise hung there, heavy and intoxicating. Caden's breath was ragged as he searched her eyes. "Tell me," he said, barely above a whisper, "can we break through this together?" Scene escape plan. The air crackled with tension as Nova paced the floor of the dimly lit room, a small suite in the heart of the grandiose hotel that doubled as a cage. The flickering chandelier cast shadows that danced like whispers around them, while the muffled sounds of the gala filtered through the walls, a stark contrast to the gravity of their conversation. "What if we don't make it out of here?" Nova's voice was steady, but the knot in her stomach twisted tighter with each word. She stopped, turning to Caden, her eyes searching. The vulnerability in her tone cut through the pretense. Caden leaned against the wall, arms folded tightly across his chest, as if he were physically bracing himself against the weight of their situation. "We have to believe we will. Otherwise, we're already lost." His gaze bore into hers, deep and unwavering, yet the tremor in his steadfast nature revealed unspoken fears. "Belief isn't enough," she replied, biting her lip, feeling the flutter of uncertainty in her chest. "What if they find us before we can leave?" Before Caden could respond, a loud crash echoed from the ballroom below, sending a shock of adrenaline spiraling through them both. His posture shifted, muscles coiling as he instinctively moved closer to her, their shoulders almost touching. "They're getting restless. We need to act fast." Nova took a breath. the aroma of sandalwood from the candles mingling with the crisp scent of the night air wafting through the barely opened window, grounding her for just a moment. "Then let's create a diversion," she suggested, her mind whirring to life. "We could." "Nova," Caden interrupted, his voice softer now, yet firm. "Any scene we create could backfire. We need a plan that gets us out, not deeper in." The gravity of his words hung in the air like the lingering scent of rain on pavement, a reminder of their precarious reality. A flicker of determination ignited in her eyes. "You're right, but I can't keep running from my—" "Your past?" Caden interrupted with a wry smile, though the warmth didn't quite reach his eyes. "We both know how complicated that is." As he spoke, a moment of vulnerability flitted across his face, an openness she had rarely seen. "Complicated?" Nova scoffed lightly, folding her arms. "You're not the only one with secrets, Caden. We're in this together, and if we're going to fight our way out, we need to trust each other completely. Trust works both ways." His voice was low, a rumble of thunder in the room. "What about your sister? If she's really involved?" "She isn't. Not like that. I've done enough pretending," she asserted, stepping closer, their breaths mingling in the intimate space between them. "But Caden, I can't do this without you." He paused, the air heavy with the unsaid truths swirling around them. Finally, he took a step forward, closing the distance until he was almost upon her. "Then we'll face it together," he vowed, his voice fierce. Yet, underneath that fervor was a whisper of something softer, a connection forged from shared fears and secrets that entwined their lives. In that heartbeat, something shifted. Their eyes locked, the world around them fading as Nova's heart raced. Caden reached out, fingers brushing against the side of her cheek, an electric jolt sparking between them. "I know I haven't been completely honest," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, thick with emotion. "And I'll make it right, but I need you to trust me." "Yes," she breathed, the word escaping her lips like an uncharted promise, igniting everything already simmering beneath the surface. In that moment, the space between them dissolved entirely, and then he kissed her gently at first, but it deepened into something urgent, a collision of passions and unresolved tensions. His lips were soft and warm, igniting an undeniable heat that soared through her. Nova melted into him, wrapping her arms around his neck and feeling the thrum of life between them. As they pulled away, the air felt charged, the weight of their unfinished fight against the world hanging like a shroud. "Let's do this," Caden murmured against her forehead. "Together." In that promise, they found not just hope, but a fierce determination to overcome everything that lay before them, a battle fought with hearts entwined. Scene 18. Trust in the shadows. The shadows stretched across the grand ballroom, thick with anticipation and danger. A low murmur of laughter and clinking glasses faded into the background, leaving Caden and Nova isolated in a cocoon of uncertainty. "Do you really think they're after us?" Nova's voice was barely above a whisper, her eyes darting around the dimly lit corner where they had sought refuge, the vibrancy of the gala dancing at the edges of their senses. "Not just us," Caden replied, leaning closer, the heat radiating from his body grounding her against the unseen threats lurking nearby. "They know about the others. We have to stay sharp." He clenched his jaw, anxiety creeping in as he remembered the whispers of the criminal syndicate, their network woven through every familiar face in the room. Nova pressed her palms together, feeling the delicate lace of her gown against her skin. "You always seem to have a plan, but what if this time nothing works?" Vulnerability flickered in her eyes, raw and real. The weight of her sister's secret and her own identity sat heavy on her shoulders. Caden softened, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. "We'll find a way, together. We always do." In a moment of intimacy, he reached out, brushing his fingers against her arm, a tender, reassuring touch. Nova felt an electricity pulse through her at his contact, as if a small flame had ignited in her chest. "Can we really trust each other, Caden? I've been hiding so much." The admission hung in the air, a fragile thread connecting them in the chaos. "Trust," he murmured, searching her gaze. "In this world, it's the only thing we have left." The sincerity in his voice wrapped around her, anchoring her in a tempest of fear and longing. As if pulled together by an invisible force, they leaned closer, their breaths mingling, creating a hush in the midst of the roaring crowd. I want to believe you, she said, her voice trembling ever so slightly. Then believe in this. Caden's hand slipped to the back of her neck, warm and steady. He brought her forward, their lips barely a breath apart, time suspended for just a heartbeat. Nova could hear her own pulse thrumming in her ears, the world outside fading into a distant blur. The only reality was the man before her, the gravity of the moment drawing her closer. Caden closed the distance, capturing her lips with his, soft yet demanding. The kiss ignited a fire within her, a fierce blend of longing, fear, and yearning that weaved through her entire being. It was more than just physical. It was a silent promise, a shared understanding that in this precarious situation, they weren't just surviving. They were living, and they were alive together. As the kiss deepened, Nova felt her doubts slipping away, replaced by an intoxicating rush of connection that sent tingles along her spine. Caden's hand cradled her jaw, his thumb tracing the curve of her neck, reaching beyond the masks they both wore to the tender places they hadn't allowed anyone to see. But the laughter and clamor from the gala swelled, reminding them they were still ensnared in a web of danger. With a reluctant sigh, they pulled back, foreheads touching, still united by that shared breath. Caden opened his eyes, dark and intense. Whatever happens, we face it together. His resolve sparked a flicker of hope within her. Together, Nova echoed, the word of vow that solidified their bond as partners against the darkness closing in around them. Just as the moment breathed a sigh of relief, an echoing shout shattered the fragile stillness. They exchanged quick glances, as the air thickened with renewed tension. Stay close, Caden said, determination lacing his words as they melded back into the chaos of the ballroom, prepared to confront whatever storm awaited them. Scene 19. Through the fire. The grand ballroom pulsated with a feverish energy, the air thick with the intoxicating blend of expensive perfume and simmering tension. Chandeliers adorned with crystals cast shimmering reflections against opulent emerald silk drapes, framing the chaos unfolding below. Laughter echoed, sharp and hollow, leaving a discordant harmony amidst the clinking of glasses filled to the brim with sparkling champagne. This was a place of masks, ceremonial faces hiding truths far darker than mere secrets. Caden Onyx sat rigidly at a corner table, his worry betrayed by the tight lines etched on his forehead. The rhythmic throbbing of a distant bass pulsed in his ears, anchoring him in the moment as much as the throbbing anxiety knotted in his stomach. His keen eyes surveyed the crowd, darting past layers of glistening attire and laughter, searching for one person, Nova Leclerc, his heart racing in tandem with the music that clouded his thoughts. Across the room, Nova, dressed in her sister's daringly low-cut gown, clutched her glass tightly, a buoyant laughter escaping her lips as she engaged with a group of admirers. The stark contrast between her facade and the weight of her deception made Caden's heart ache. Even here, under the warm glow of the chandeliers, he felt suspended in darkness, exposed to the ghosts of his past. "Nova!" Caden shouted, jolting her out of her revelry. The room seemed to freeze, conversations stuttering like the flickering flame of a candle. Her laughter faded as she turned, surprise and a flicker of nervousness crossing her face. "Can we talk?" The shift in the air was palpable. Nova excused herself, the smile lingering subtly like smoke from a dying ember. She approached him, the merriment of the gala dimming in her eyes. "What's wrong?" Caden leaned forward, his tone lowered yet fierce. "We need to get out of here, now." He glanced over his shoulder, as though danger lurked just out of view. The threat felt real. The familiar weight of an unknown enemy had settled heavily on his shoulders. "Out? But it's just starting to get fun." "You're being dramatic," Nova replied, attempting to lighten the mood, though her brow creased with concern. "Fun? This isn't a good time for fun, Nova," he snapped, his voice loud enough to draw side eyes. An uncharacteristic burst of irritation had slipped from his lips, but he quickly reined it in, his heart racing from emotions tightly wound. "It's about my past, the syndicate, they." "Your past?" she interrupted, her voice thick with disbelief. "You mean the thing you've been avoiding mentioning? The child?" Caden felt the air thicken at her words. It was almost an accusation, the lightness of the gathering dissolving as tension unfurled, layered like the intricate gowns swirling around them. Silence enveloped them for a moment, heavy as the ornate draperies around the room. I didn't want to drag you into my mess, Caden confessed, jaw taut. You have enough on your plate without me weighing you down. Dragging me into your mess? She spat back, cheeks flushing. I deserve to know, Caden. I'm not here to play games. I'm trying to protect you. Caden nearly shouted, his frustration clawing at his composure. Do you really think I want to keep these secrets? There are people here who would use anything against me, against you. In the silence that followed, they exchanged heated glances. Her sharpened gaze clashed with his unyielding determination. Pain felt so familiar in that moment, pulsing with the rhythm of their racing hearts. They seemed like two moths flitting too close to the scorching flame, and yet unable to retreat. Then let me help you, Caden. I'm not afraid of your past, Nova argued, stepping closer, her anger softening into something more primal, more intimate. You can't keep shielding me from it forever. And for a heartbeat that felt like eternity, Caden bore the weight of that challenge. The fragility of his secrets lay bare, each breath shared pulsing electric tension. Longing ignites in dark places, Nova, he murmured, vulnerability taking his breath. I'm not worthy of your light, and yet here I am, she replied, her voice cracked with emotion, still drawn to you, despite your shadows. Suddenly, the ballroom door swung open with a loud bang, and startled gasps filled the air. In that moment, Caden realized the danger was not just in the shadows of his past, but looming in the bright lights of the present. Look out! Someone cried as a group of masked figures burst into the room, weapons drawn, ready to extract the secrets they sought. Nova's hand met Caden's instinctively, their fingers intertwining tighter as they faced the imminent chaos. Through the fire, Caden, we face this together. As the room erupted into a frenzy of panic, one truth shimmered above the rest. In their shared fight, they would find their strength. Scene 20, A Turn of Fate. Nova stepped through the ornate double doors of the gala's grand hall, her heart racing with the echoes of gunfire still lingering in the air behind her. Drenched in the combined scent of melting candle wax and fine French perfume, she spotted Caden amid the thrumming chaos of guests in evening attire. Their faces, once painted with laughter and elegance, now wore confusion and fear. The shimmering crystal chandeliers cast fragments of light on their frantic expressions, highlighting a reality unraveling at the seams. Caden, what just happened? Nova demanded, brow furrowing. She reached for his arm, feeling the tense muscles beneath the fabric of his tailored jacket. Stay close, Caden replied calmly, though his eyes darted around, surveying the exits as if the hovering threat of the syndicate lay just behind them. We need to move. They'll be looking for us. Move? Just like that? She shot back, her voice rising like a summer storm. You drag me into this world and expect me to just run? He turned, fiery determination in his gaze. I did not drag you anywhere, Nova. This was always bigger than both of us. The silence that followed crackled in the air like electricity. Nova's chest heaved, a mixture of outrage and awareness crashing against her defenses. She caught a glimpse of her twin sister, Mira, slipping through another set of doors across the hall, uncertainty shadowing her features. Guilt washed over her, but Caden's presence anchored her in the moment, and that terrified her. I didn't ask for any of this, she said, her voice lowering, laced with raw emotion. I didn't ask to pretend to be Mira, or get caught up in your world of secrets. Caden took a step closer, and the heat radiating from his body drew her in, yet bordered on suffocating. Secrets haunt us both, Nova. There's so much you don't know. She swallowed hard, her pulse quickening at the implication. Then tell me, Caden. I deserve the truth, not your half-sentences and evasive glances. Just then a loud crash echoed from the banquet room, and guests nearby gasped, their eyes wide as they turned to the noise. Caden's expression hardened. No time. We need to. No, Nova interrupted, her voice slicing through the tension. You won't just silence me again. What is your secret? The words ripped from her mouth, harsh and demanding. For a moment he hesitated, the storm in his eyes battling vulnerability. Then, with a swift movement, he grabbed her hand and pulled her behind a massive silk drape that flanked the entrance. Darkness draped over them, the heavy fabric weighing down on her soul. You think your mistakes don't affect me? He whispered, their faces barely a heartbeat apart. Do you have any idea what it feels like to be the one left holding the pieces? The sudden closeness sent a tremor through her body. She could see the golden flecks in his brown eyes, the pain hidden behind his bravado. "How could you know?" "I know everything, Nova," he confessed, his voice husky. "I was the one trying to be there for you while dealing with my own demons." Silence enveloped them once more, thick with unresolved emotion. She could hear the faint sound of footsteps approaching, the world outside a fearful blanket ready to unravel. "Tell me." It was a plea now, escaping her lips in a breathless whisper. Her heart thundered with unspoken desire, each word heavy with the weight of the past and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Caden closed his eyes for a moment, as if wrestling with a burden too great to bear. "My son, Nova. I have a son." The confession landed between them like a stone thrown into still water, a powerful ripple of shock and betrayal. Her breath caught, reality slamming into her like a freight train. You have a child?" "In hiding," he continued, barely above a murmur. "I've kept him away from this madness, from my past mistakes. I wanted to protect him from people like the ones tonight." A mixture of anger and sympathy surged within her. The secret he'd carried, the weight of his choices had sculpted him into this guarded man. "And me? What about me, Caden? Do I mean so little that you'd hide even this?" "Don't twist my words," he shot back, the frustration igniting. "You think I wanted this? To keep you in the dark while you assume my life is filled with nothing but secrets?" "No more hiding, Caden." Her voice rose a notch again, anguish bubbling to the surface. "Where do we go from here? Can we even move forward?" Across the hall, the upheaval grew more chaotic, orders shouted, shouts of confusion. Nova could feel the energy shifting, leaving them caught in a small cocoon of intimacy and crisis. "I will fight for both of us," Caden said fiercely, "and I'll face my past if it means protecting both you and my son." "Then don't make me run from who I am." Nova's voice softened. "I don't want to pretend anymore." He searched her eyes, and in that gaze, she saw something shift, an understanding, a flicker of hope. "Then let's do this together." They lingered close, and as the shadows of the past loomed large, a rush of unspoken feelings swirled in the space between them, an electrifying promise of what they could build beyond the destruction. "Together," Nova affirmed softly, fear melting into fierce resolve. She took a deep breath, willing herself to embrace the chaos ahead. "Let's go." Scene 21. Vow of Protection. The night air clung like a whispered promise as Caden Onyx paced the dimly lit terrace, the grand gala's opulence swirling beyond the wrought iron balustrade. Glimmering chandeliers hung in the distant ballroom like stars held captive, while laughter floated through the air, a bittersweet reminder of the world still unaware of the shadows tightening around them. He pressed his palms against the cool stone railing, breath catching in his throat as he wrestled with thoughts he'd rather silence. Behind him, the soft sound of footsteps approached, sharp against the cacophony of swirling voices. Caden turned, heart quickening as he encountered Nova LeClaire. Even in the modest glow of the moonlit night, she radiated a warmth that stirred something deeper in him, an unyielding surge of protectiveness. "Are you all right?" Nova's voice echoed with concern, her eyes sparkling, though the shadows of the night crossed her delicate features. Caden leaned closer, determination brewing within him like a summer storm. "I need you to understand something, Nova," he began, his voice low yet urgent. He paused, the silence between them thick with unspoken fears and yearning. Her gaze lifted to meet his, the indigo depths of her irises revealing echoes of vulnerability. He exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of all his secrets in that moment. "I would do anything to keep you safe," he continued, each word deliberate, heavy with purpose. "You're not just a part of my life. You are my life, and I'll protect you, even from the darkest corners of my past." Nova's breath hitched, her heart racing, and he stepped closer, spurred by the gravity of his confession. He could feel the electric pull of desire curling in the space between them. The scent of jasmine from her hair enveloped him, igniting a longing that consumed every rational thought. "What if the darkness finds us?" she questioned softly, yet there was a flicker of courage in her voice that halted the somber shadows that loomed. Caden shook his head, resolute. "Then we'll face it together. I promise you this. I won't let anything happen to you." His hands enveloped hers, warm and steady. It felt right, like a promise not just made, but destined. In the fluttering quiet, Caden leaned closer, their breaths mingling in the space that pulsed with unacknowledged tension. "You have no idea what it means to me," he murmured, capturing the glimmer of moonlight in his eyes, "to finally meet someone who sees me, even with my flaws." She smiled, a gentle curve that made his heart leap. "And you see me too, despite the masks we wear?" In her eyes danced a spark of mischief, a fleeting reminder of the girl who had once loftily twirled beneath the stars in carefree abandon. "More than you know," he replied, drawing her closer still. Suddenly, in the electric night, a gust of wind swept through, causing her hair to flutter against his face, intoxicating him with every nuance of her presence. "More than you know," she echoed playfully, but the underlying current of sincerity between them anchored the lightness.